Welcome to Cozy Noah Vibes, a podcast where we listen, relax, and drift into sleep. I'm your host, Noah, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Many of our friends have told us they enjoy our bedtime history stories, so I can't wait for you to hear tonight's new episode. This time, we're traveling back in time to learn about the history of the Parthenon in ancient Greece. It's a story full of research and fascination, controversy and understanding. Now, make yourself comfortable, ready to travel back to a time long ago. Just observe the flow of your breath. Feel the nourishing air moving in and out of your body, and feel the weight of your body supported by the mattress, giving your muscles a chance to rest. Close your eyes and give your mind permission to calm down. You can let any thoughts come and go without focusing on them or forcing yourself to ignore them. Simply observe them without attachment, without being consumed by your own thoughts. Gradually, let those thoughts drift away, and meanwhile, focus your mind on one intentional thought. I want you to simply review the day that has just passed and find a moment that made you feel satisfied or happy. Try to capture a small, simple moment and remember that positive feeling. It might be when you enjoyed breakfast, perhaps a moment during your commute when you saw something inspiring or interesting, or a moment during a walk in the park. It could also be a conversation with a friend or loved one, a moment from a book you're reading, or even something you saw on TV. Whatever happened today, be thankful for that moment. While it may have been fleeting, by recalling it now, you allow that sense of satisfaction to re-emerge. Practicing positive gratitude, take a deep breath, and as you exhale, let that thought drift away too. Let your imagination float further back to ancient Greece to learn about the story of the Parthenon, a marvel of architecture. Since the Greeks built these magnificent structures, the world has been fascinated by this ancient culture. Whether it's the mysterious religions adopted by the Romans or modern artists capturing Greek history in films, ancient Greece has always sparked imagination, but it is only recently that we have had direct means to understand Greek life, as the Greek language and script underwent significant changes after the 14th century AD. In the Parthenon of Athens, there is a stele that has been a key to understanding the Greek language for centuries. While this stele might not seem as impressive as other ancient artifacts, it is one of the most popular exhibits, attracting visitors from around the world. Before the discovery of the Parthenon stele, historians' understanding of ancient Greece mostly came from archaeological conjectures and documents from other ancient civilizations. Scholars collected information from the records of Greeks, Romans, and Hebrews, but they couldn't decipher ancient Greek writing a mysterious script. Let's travel back in time to this country filled with history, art, and culture, and learn about how the Parthenon was discovered, interpreted, and the historical significance of the text on the stele. Ancient Greek writing is a pictographic script, meaning it uses symbols that we now call letters. These symbols have meanings and sounds, but modern scholars took many years to understand how to read them. However, over time, the ability to read and understand ancient Greek was lost under Greek, Roman, and Ottoman rule. It wasn't until the 18th century, through the Parthenon stele, that linguists began to understand the ancient language, allowing modern historians to study Greek history, art, and mythology through ancient Greek texts. Our story begins in 1798 when a French military leader, Napoleon, embarked on an imperial mission to Egypt. Napoleon tried to establish French trade and military dominance in the region. Although this part of the mission was unsuccessful and the French soon withdrew, Napoleon's journey was not only about politics and trade but also about scientific and cultural exchange. During his time in Egypt, over 150 archaeologists, scientists, and artists accompanied him, eager to explore the relics of this ancient world. Napoleon set off from France, across the Mediterranean, to the city of Alexandria. As his team approached one of the centers of modern and ancient culture, palm trees swayed on the blue coastline. Napoleon's crew disembarked at the port city, witnessing modern markets, ancient stone fortresses, and the famous Library of Alexandria, a gateway to the ancient world. From the port city, Napoleon traversed the desert, where golden sand dunes shimmered in the warm sunlight. His team occasionally glimpsed the Nile River, winding towards Cairo, just as Napoleon and his men were. Finally, the French team arrived at the great city of Cairo, which held many ancient and modern wonders. The Nile flowed through the city, full of small boats and children playing in the cool water. In the city center, ancient and modern architecture intertwined, astonishing the French. The troops replenished their supplies in the colorful markets, where merchants eagerly traded with the French. Although Napoleon failed to establish the French influence he desired in the region, his expedition had significant cultural implications. A year later, in 1799, the Parthenon stele was discovered. French soldiers were digging the foundations of a military fortress near the town of Rashid, near Alexandria, when one soldier noticed an old stone with writing on it. This gray slab, about the size of a medium suitcase, had rough and broken edges. It might not have seemed as interesting as other artifacts, but Napoleon's team realized its potential academic significance. Though they couldn't understand the text on the stele, they saw its potential value as a trilingual document. A trilingual document contains the same text in 3 different languages, similar to the bilingual and trilingual signs used in today's countries. For example, in Canada, all official signs are written in both English and French. The soldiers recognized the Greek letters at the bottom of the stele and believed it might be key to understanding the 2 scripts above, hieroglyphics and Demotic script. The French soldiers named the town of Rashid Rosetta, which is where the stele got its name. The name of the stele is simple, but it is a complex linguistic treasure. The soldiers took the stele back to Cairo, and French scientists and scholars began studying the text. They were able to translate the Greek text on the stele, but could not understand the hieroglyphics or Demotic script. In fact, deciphering the hieroglyphics would take many years in the collective effort of many scholars. 2 years later, in 1801, Napoleon left Egypt and had to relinquish most of the artifacts discovered in the region. Due to Britain's influence in the area, the stele was sent to Britain for study. The soldiers carefully wrapped the stele in paper, loaded it onto a ship, and set sail for Britain. The stele traveled slowly along the Nile until it reached the port of Alexandria, then continued its journey by sea until it arrived at the cold, windy port of Portsmouth. This cold coast was starkly different from the humid Mediterranean. From Portsmouth, the stele was transported to the British Museum, where it remains on display to this day, despite repeated calls from Egyptians for its return, along with other artifacts taken during those years. Even though Napoleon's actions in Egypt were brief, his team wrote a 24-volume compendium about their time in the region, which later helped many modern scholars, historians, and interested students learn about this country's long and rich history. Scholars from all over Europe flocked to study the stele, attempting to crack the code of the ancient language. The best preserved part of the stele, at the bottom, was written in Greek letters. The top part, due to age and missing rows, was written in hieroglyphics. The middle part was written in a script known as Demotic. Demotic is a form of ancient Egyptian script used for recording everyday life. Though scholars knew little about it, they knew it was as old and complex as hieroglyphics. The hieroglyphic system used complex symbols and pictures to represent sounds, words, and concepts, most commonly used in religious and royal inscriptions. The complexity of hieroglyphics puzzled European scholars, but they knew the Greek text might be the key to deciphering it. Through careful comparison and study of the Greek text, French scholar Jean-François Ois Champollion finally succeeded in deciphering the hieroglyphics in 1822. His breakthrough allowed scholars to read and understand ancient Egyptian inscriptions and documents, unlocking many secrets of ancient Egyptian civilization. In the following years, the Parthenon was further studied and preserved, becoming an important part of cultural heritage and historical research. While many have never seen this temple, the ancient Greek culture and art it represents have had a profound impact on the entire world.